Hi, and welcome to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude. Today we're going to take a look at the Kaizen Sherman T48 Workable Track Set, number KZ-SH-T48 in 1/35 scale. This isn't my first time working with the Kaizen tracks. I've used them on a couple of different kits of varying types, T34, Panther tracks, and I did Sherman tracks on another kit as well. So they come in this nice little box. On the box they actually give you instructions on how to assemble them and tell you how much stuff is inside the box. It also tells you that it'll fit most 1/35 scale M4 and M10 tanks, for example Tamiya Dragon, with accurate details and spare track links. So let's take a look at the contents. So the box comes with 22 sprues, marked Sherman T48 here, Kaizen 2015 there. Each sprue has 8 track blocks and 16 end connectors, as well as 16 little bolt detail pieces for the end connectors. Also comes with a bag that has 48 pieces of the brass metal pin material, which is way more than enough, and it's nice to have the extras to keep in your spares box for other projects and making grab handles and stuff like that. So a close-up look at the parts. You can see the detail is pretty nice. The end connectors look really good, and if you want to do tracks with extended end connectors, they have another set that you can get of just the end connectors, so you just replace one of the regular end connectors with the extended duckbill type. So in putting them together, it's really pretty easy, and this is where a good pair of sprue cutters really comes in handy. Now you can do it with something like this, scissors, you know, whatever kind of cutters the person might use, but you'll just leave more cleanup that'll need to be done. That's why I like these. Are Tamiya Cutters. I'm not sure what the model number is, but they cut really super close to the part, so there's a less cleanup to have to mess with. The Gundam Planet and God's Hand cutters are also really nice for doing this, but it's pretty simple. You just get it as close as you can to the part and cut it. Now keep in mind, this is an ABS plastic, so it's not as brittle as styrene. It's a little bit softer, and you can tell when you cut it. Now you end up with these little sorry, I'm getting in my shadow here for my. You have this little area that's been cut. Now that's cut far enough where it's not going to interfere with assembly, and when you put these together, these track blocks butt up against each other, so you're not even going to see this. There's a little bit of a mold part line right here, but that is very faint, and you can sand it off if you want, but it's not going to be visible with the end connectors on. So there's virtually no cleanup to do on the track pads themselves. Okay, so after you get all these cut off, or the ones you need cut off, the end connectors, and again, if you're using decent cutters, some really good quality cutters, you can get really super close and there won't be any cleanup to mess with. Alright, now as you can see, I've already got, you know, some of these put together. So I wanted to get my groove and see which way works the best. So what you'll need is you'll need a block, and then you'll need 2 end connectors, and then the brass rod. Now, here's something to remember. On the brass rod, you'll want to use the factory cut end, the end that comes out, as your as the one to be poking through all the holes on the end connectors, and not so much on the blocks, but on the end connectors and everything, because when you cut them, you'll get a little flat spot, and it makes it a little bit harder to get it started. So by using this end, there's less likelihood of it getting messed up. So I'm gonna zoom in a bit here and hopefully keep it in frame and show you how this is going to happen. So first thing you need to do is you need to get an end connector, and from the outside of the end connector, and this is the way I do it. There may be 50 other ways to do it. You know, it's a 10 by 10 rule, 10 different people, 10 different ways of doing it, but this way seems to work pretty good for me. Then one in the other hole, like that. Then you take your track block and make sure you have your end connector facing the correct way. Take your block, make sure it's facing the correct way, and put it on the right here. Okay. Then that one in there like that. Okay, and you have that. So then you'll want to using some tweezers, get your next end connector, make sure it's facing the appropriate direction. Insert them into the holes, and you'll be able to feel them going into the holes, because the back side of the end connector, the hole is kind of funnel shaped at the very top. It's kind of got a shallow indentation, so it's easy to line it up, and then you just drop it into place like this. Press it down. And grabbing both of the pins, just make sure they're bottomed out on your work table or your work surface. Then taking some cutters that you don't mind using on metal. This is soft brass, but you don't want to use good cutters on it. Get the cutter where it's just a little bit, where it's not quite touching the pin. Press down on your end connector and cut your first pin. Press it down, cut your second pin, and there you go. And you just continue on doing the same thing. Now, after you've done some of them, and you if you notice that any end connectors are falling off, by cutting them, it's creating a little flat spot, which kind of helps to hold in place, keeps the end connector from popping off. But just as a safety measure, once you get done with the segment like I've done here, I turn them up on the side. I go through with my tweezers or my cutter, and just make sure that all the pins are bottomed out and where they should be. And then I just take a little dot of super glue in here, and I just touch to each one of these end connector pins, and let it set up, and that way you don't have to worry about the end connectors falling off as easy. So that's how I do a segment. So let me work some more, and we'll get near the end, and we'll take a look again. Okay, once you get your tracks together, and you can do them after the whole length's done, or you could do it, you know, a section at a time, but there's one more detail that needs to be added, and that is the bolt detail for the end connectors. So on the end connectors, right here on the real thing, let's zoom in a bit here. Right here, there would be a bolt that pulls this block in here, or whatever you wedge, or whatever you want to call it, tight to hold the end connector in place on the end of the pins. So this comes with holes molded in them, and you have to glue those parts in. Now, they're very tiny and they look very scary. However, they are not that big a deal. All you do is take some super glue, CA glue, whatever you want to call it, and then I'm going to try and show you here. On the lower part there of that pin, you can see a flat spot. The top is rounded, the bottom is flat, cylindrical looking. Focus. So what you do is you cut them off of the sprue and leave that little part on right there, and then just simply touch a little bit, oh man, a little bit of CA glue, and then put it in place. Make sure it's seated properly, and then you just let the CA glue cure up. Doesn't take much. Make sure it's pressed into place. And you let them cure up. Then you can either use a knife or your very small cutters and cut that little bit of sprue off, and you're set. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it is, but it's actually quite easy. It's just, you know, it's going to take a while to get all down the line, but it adds that little tiny bit of extra detail that you know, is not that difficult to do. So that is that. So after I get all those glued on there, this run, you know, I'll have to add some more length, because this isn't the length for the kit I'm going to be using it on. But you know, that's basically how you assemble these tracks. As you can see, they are quite flexible. They work really well. The detail's nice. Once you get a groove going, they're not hard to put together at all. And just to show you how they look in place, this is the drive sprocket for the M4A1 Sherman that I'm doing. And as you can see, it fits perfectly all the way around. And I know these tracks work on Academy kits, and I've tried it also on a Tamiya drive sprocket. So virtually any 1/35 scale Sherman tank or one of the derivatives, whether it be, you know, an M10 or, you know, whatever, these tracks will fit. So that's it for now on the tracks. The Kaizen Sherman T48 workable tracks. I hope this video was helpful and kind of shows you that, you know, although there's a lot of components and kind of a few steps, it's very doable and just as easy or easier than some other types of individual track link kits. So as always, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions or anything else, please leave them in the comments box down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So until next time, I will see you all later.